To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. The health of Treasure Coast waterways, the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon. Our focus today with the publication of a new guidebook from the Army Corps of Engineers called LOOM. Stands for Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual, and it will dictate releases when and how much from the lake, both east to the Treasure Coast and west into the Caloosahatchee River. Toxic algae, of course, in those releases has for far too long been a nightmare for residents and the environment. My guest, a familiar face over many years on this broadcast, Eve Samples, Executive Director of Friends of the Everglades, and we thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Michael. Pleasure to be here.
Talk LOOM. Break it down for us.
Sure. So we've been waiting 5 years for a new lake management plan. It was supposed to be implemented a year ago, and there was a year-long delay as another federal agency, the National Marine Fisheries Service, did an additional review to look at the impact on sea turtles. That's finally done, and the good news is this new lake plan will be a vast improvement over lake management plans of the past. That said, it won't be a cure-all. It's not going to stop harmful discharges to the St. Lucie, to Lake Worth Lagoon, to the Caloosahatchee, but it is going to allow for more flexibility from the Army Corps of Engineers, especially when toxic algae is present in the lake, and we've seen that all too often.
Talk a bit more when you talk about vast improvements. Of course, the old LOOM was 2008. So we've been waiting 16 years, and in 5 years have promised that it would come. Talk a bit more about the improvements, though again, as you said, no panacea. Where does it specifically improve for people living along the Treasure Coast and for our precious waterways?
Sure. So LOOM was put into place, LORS 08 was put into place after Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. So you can imagine how the Army Corps of Engineers was feeling after that disaster in New Orleans.
Too many acronyms.
Exactly. so that lake plan really constrained the Army Corps when lake levels rose, and the Herbert Hoover Dike around Lake Okeechobee, which is 143 miles around, you might remember had some structural problems at the time. There was seepage, as they called it. So there was a real concern
about was beginning on the dike.
Exactly. Just starting the multi-billion-dollar rehab of the dike. That's now done, and the Army Corps of Engineers is more comfortable holding the lake at higher levels, and that additional freeboard, if you will, is what can buy us some time in terms of damaging discharges to the coast. So during the vast majority of the year, the lake is in a range where we'll get 0 harmful discharges to the St. Lucie or Lake Worth Lagoon or the Caloosahatchee. The real crapshoot is going to be up above 16 feet. We'll still have a high risk of discharges at those very high lake levels. So that's the big difference, and the Army Corps of Engineers is comfortable keeping the lake a bit higher because the Herbert Hoover Dike is stronger than it used to be.
And thank you for bringing up Lake Worth Lagoon. We talk about the Treasure Coast, of course, so very important, but we've saw discharges in the wintertime. A lot of that water was heading into the Lake Worth Lagoon, so Palm Beach County certainly sees the impact as well. One of the things when you and I were discussing this the other day was the fact that definitionally, you have something written in now, and if my understanding was correct, it's written in now that the Army Corps says we recognize toxic algae and the danger. Talk about that and the importance of that in terms of at least focusing the conversation the next time there has to be a debate about big releases.
That's right. One big change with LOOM compared to any other Lake Okeechobee management plan from the Army Corps of Engineers is that this plan acknowledges the risk of toxic algae. That sounds basic, right? Toxic algae in its name is risky. However, the Army Corps of Engineers never acknowledged that risk before. The other thing it does is acknowledge the need to send more clean water south to Everglades National Park. Of course, we at Friends of the Everglades firmly believe that is the linchpin of Everglades restoration. So the acknowledgement of those two things in this new lake plan are important. Of course, acknowledgement does not translate to action always. So we'll be, through our advocacy efforts at Friends of the Everglades, pushing the Army Corps of Engineers to take the appropriate action when there's toxic algae in the lake, and also to send as much clean water south as possible during the dry season when the southern Everglades needs it. That has the added benefit, when we can send more clean water south in the dry season, it has the added benefit of drawing the lake down so that when hurricane season rolls around, we're not looking at high lake levels, which unfortunately this year we are.
There were concerns among many in the environmental community that the Army Corps could have done more over the winter last October, November to begin drawing down the lake. That was a source of criticism this year. I know that you still have concerns that given the predictions about the storm season, that it could be all but inevitable that we could end up seeing big releases if, goodness forbid, we get a big storm. And at the end of the day, the Army Corps tells me flood control, for everything you've said, will still have to be our priority, even with a refurbished Herbert Hoover Dike. And so all of those possibilities come to bear this year. You have concerns about that, I know.
Sure. So June 1st is right around the corner. Hurricane season. We've all heard the predictions of a very active storm season. And although Lake Okeechobee levels have dropped quite a bit over the last couple of months, we've had a dry April and May, which is a good thing for us and the environment. We know that the path and precipitation of those storms will determine how much Lake Okeechobee rises. Remember, the lake can rise as much as 2 feet after a single storm. We've seen it in the past. It just depends on where those storms go.
And if they dump water in the Everglades, in the basin, and it all comes south, you've got a big problem. In the watershed, those are your concerns about where it lands.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at the mercy of Mother Nature in a lot of ways. However, LOOM, the new lake plan, brings some common sense and flexibility into play in a way we just haven't seen it in the past.
Talk about those who are concerned because they've been pummeled economically or environmentally. Say, well, if at the end of the day, if they can still, if it comes down to it, send water east, is it really that big of a deal, quite frankly? What do you say to them and to those who have understandable cynicism?
Sure. So our position at Friends of the Everglades is that we never need a drop of water to the St. Lucie estuary. The Caloosahatchee on the west coast is a little different. It does need some dry season flows to maintain salinity. And we also believe we never need a drop of lake water to the Lake Worth Lagoon. So we don't think that these very fragile and economically beneficial estuaries should be used as relief valves for Lake Okeechobee. The broader solution is reconnecting the river of grass south of the lake.
And I want to talk about that as we move into that part of our conversation. Before I do, I will typically get, understandably, frustration from people living around the lake. So you're always talking about the environmental impact. You don't care. I had one person write, what about all of us living around here? We worry about if something was to happen, about flooding. And they're the dynamic on the lake, too much water hurts the fisheries there. Speak to that critique and the concern, but you have disparate groups and constituencies here.
Yeah, it's a real concern for us too at Friends of the Everglades. One of our board members is from Belglade. His family still lives in Belglade. We never want to see urban flooding south of the lake, absolutely. And there's a way to manage the system in which we protect communities south of the lake from flooding, and thankfully that Herbert Hoover Dike has been rehabilitated. But that might also mean that the 400,000 acres of sugarcane around the lake doesn't get perfect drainage.
Right.
There's a difference between perfect drainage and flood protection.
And that is a nice segue into what you've talked about, the different parts of this broadcast. Talk about what needs to happen south of the lake. We talk and focus a lot of attention on the reservoir project, gigantic reservoir to be built there, perhaps ready by the late decade, though we've seen the kind of technical issues that can come up. I recently did a story, the C-44, where they're dealing with seepage issues. Talk about what you see is the dynamic there, specifically what needs to be done and to push for that.
So the Army Corps of Engineers in the state of Florida are building giant reservoirs so big they're not similar to anything that's been constructed in this country. The EAA reservoir will have 37-foot high embankment walls, 23 feet of water. It's going to cost about $4 billion. These are big, expensive projects, and we need to make sure that they're effective at cleaning water so that clean water can go south to the Everglades. What we still need to make sure that can happen is more man-made marshes. These are called stormwater treatment areas south of the lake. They work with Mother Nature. They very much look like the marshes in the river of grass that Mother Nature created. Right. And we still need more of them. So more land acquisition for man-made marshes south of the lake to clean water is really going to be the key to our lasting solutions in the future. You know, on top of a better lake plan, on top of this expensive tall, deep reservoir, we still need more cleansing marshes.
And always there's been the pushback there. Talk about that, about being able to do that,
That's
getting
right.
the land to do it,
Yeah.
and then agreeing on the levels of water, as you alluded to a few moments ago, that are enough for agriculture, which obviously a huge need for that. But talk about the competing interest and where we stand today on that longer term piece of this effort.
Yeah, so going back to when Charlie Crist was governor, there was a vision to acquire
Came that close?
Hundreds of thousands of acres, more than 100,000 acres south of the lake. So this has been talked about
From
for
agricultural
decades, exactly, in the Everglades agricultural area, sugar land. It was a buyout of U.S. sugar at the time. That deal fell apart partly because of the Great Recession, but that didn't remove the need for that land. So the EAA Reservoir project is being built on 17,000 acres. The design for that project was envisioned for 60,000 acres, and that's just science. That's how much land we need to clean water and send it south. So we know we still have this need. However, the sugarcane farmers south of the lake, mainly U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals, have not been willing sellers in the past, and we'd love for them to come to the table and step up and be heroes for the Everglades and sell some of that land so that we can have lasting relief for the state of Florida.
Final thoughts.
Sure, so we as taxpayers, you and me, Michael, and your viewers, we all pay a heavy price for cleaning water that comes off of these sugarcane fields we're talking about, almost 500,000 acres. We pay $11 million a year to clean it up, believe it or not. We've also paid billions of dollars to construct man-made marshes. So we think it's time for more equity in the system. Let's take these massive investments we're making into Everglades restoration and make sure that they're working for the broader good, not just one industry. Let's make sure that our environment, which is an economic driver in the state, is also getting a seat at the table.
Eve Samples, Executive Director, Friends of the Everglades. At least it seems to sum up that at least LOOM now, the new plan, at least bends the arc of the conversation and puts the environment squarely in the middle of the discussion. Fair enough?
I think it's very hopeful. The Army Corps of Engineers, which is not an environmental agency, has put into writing that the environment matters. So this represents a cultural shift at that federal agency, and we need the state of Florida to step up and do more, and other agencies to follow suit.
As always, appreciate you being our guest and helping to illuminate the issues before us as it pertains to our environment and its impact on our economy, all of us. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for your coverage.
Up next, the Roundtable with Brian Crowley, back, and his insight on all things political.